Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Other way. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Om Jnana Tamandasya Janandana Shalakaya Chakshuru Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Shri Mate Vir Krishna Das Goswami Namine Namo Amsari Kashaya Prabhupada Prayate Sudrida Sudri Nisyam Yanta Shavaki Varine Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Shri Mate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Niya Vishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Hare Krishna. So there's today's CC reading, which we do every Saturday. And also there's a blessed event of the, is it the appearance or disappearance of Shamananda Prabhu, which I kind of wish His Holiness Sri Krishna Goswami was talking about, because I like the narration that you give so much. But I'll read a little bit about Shamananda, who was part of the sort of trio that was consisted of the first book distributors, Shamananda, Srinivas, and Narottama Das Thakur, and they were all, of course, eternal associates of Lord Gauranga. Sri Shamananda was born in Utkala. His father's name was Sri Krishna Mandal, and his mother was Sri Durika. So he was come from a good lineage. His father was in the dynasty of Gopas and had sired many sons and daughters. And they had no children until Shamananda made it. Sort of, he was not... he didn't pass away at birth, so they named him Duki, which means sort of sad. Everyone said that the boy would become a great person, a Mahapurush. On an auspicious moment on the full day of the month of Chaitra, he appeared by the mercy of Lord Jagannath. Because he had come to preach the glories of Jagannath, the Lord himself protected him as he grew up. The boy was so beautiful he was like Cupid himself, and all eyes were fixed upon him. Gradually, it was time for the child's grain ceremony, and soon after that, he began going to school. Seeing the amazing brain this child had, the scholars were astonished. In a short time, the boy learned Sanskrit grammar, poetry, and rhetoric, and soon after, he began seriously studying the scriptures. Upon hearing the glories of Sri Chaitanya and Sri Nityananda from the mouths of the local devotees, the boy developed a powerful desire to take shelter at their lotus feet. His father was a great devotee of Krishna. Seeing his son always engrossed in thoughts of Gaura Nityananda, he told him to take mantra initiation. The boy said, Hridai Chaitanya Prabhu is my guru. He lives in Ambika Kalna. His guru is Gauridas Pandit. These two brothers, Sri Gaura and Nityananda, always reside in his home. If you give the order, I will go to him and become his disciples. His father said, My boy, that is a long way. How will you get there? Duki said, Father, many people from here will soon go to Godadesh to bathe in the Ganges. When they go, I will go with him. He was very, very young at the time. For a long time, his father thought this over and finally gave his permission. After receiving the blessings of his father and mother, he began his journey to Godadesh. Gradually, he came to Navadvip and Shantipur and finally arrived at Ambika Kalna. Upon reaching Ambika Kalna, he began inquiring from the local people where the house of Gauridas Pandit was. He was paying obeisances outside the temple of Sriman Mahaprabhu at the house of Gauridas Pandit, and there he found Hridaya Chaitanya Prabhu. Hridaya Chaitanya, upon seeing the boy, said, "Who are you?" Dukhi said, "I want to render service at your holy feet. I have come a long way from Darendra Vahadurpura. I was born in the dynasty of the 6 Gopas. My father's name is Krishna Mandal, and my name is Dukhi." Hridaya Chaitanya was pleased with the sweet words of this young boy. He said, "From now on, your name is Krishnadas." So that was very expedient initiation, but he was extremely young, and for him to speak so eloquently in the first association of his guru, I'm sure that Hridaya Chaitanya Das Prabhu was taken aback and quite pleased. From that day on, Sri Krishnadas assiduously served as guru. Sri Hridaya Chaitanya waited for an auspicious day and soon initiated him in the mantram. Krishnadas soon became fixed in his service. Seeing his determined service, his bhakti, his intelligence and understanding, Hridaya Chaitanya ordered him to go to Vrindavan to seek out Jiva Goswami. He ordered him to study the scriptures of the Goswamis and their associates under the guidance of Jiva Goswami. Sri Krishnadas bowed his head and accepted his guru's order to leave for Vrindavan. And on an auspicious day, he began his journey. At that time, Hridaya Chaitanya Prabhu gave many messages to Krishnadas to carry to the residents of Vrindavan. He requested him to communicate his dandavats and respects to the lotus feet of the 6 Goswamis. Dukhi Krishnadas first went to Navadvip Dham. There he asked the local people where he could find the old house of Jagannath Mishra, and if he might be allowed to enter that house. Arriving at the house of Sri Gauranga, he found Ishan Thakor, which is Sri Gauranga's servant, and offered full obeisances and respectful prayers to him. Ishan was very old. He asked Krishnadas, "Who are you?" Krishnadas explained who he was. Hearing his story, Ishan bestowed his blessings upon Dukhi Krishnadas. After spending a few days in Navadvip, Krishnadas turned his sweet face toward Vrindavan and continued on his journey. On his way, he came to Gayadam to take darshan of the lotus feet of the Vishnu deity there, where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had taken initiation from Ishwar Puri. Remembering how Ishwar Puri had given the mantra to the Lord, he became overwhelmed by ecstasy. After this, he went to Benares, Kashidam. There he took darshan of the holy feet of Tapan Mishra, Chandrasekhara, and many other devotees, offering prayers and obeisances to all of them. Benares, or Kashi, was a great center of learning at the time. That's where Jiva Goswami stayed. After a long time, he finally entered Mathura. There he bathed in Vishrama Ghat, took darshan of the Adi Keshava deity, and upon visiting the place where Sri Krishna appeared within this world, became choked up with prema. Thereafter, he headed in the direction of Vrindavan. After finding out the exact location of Sri Jiva Goswami's Bhajan Kutir from the local people, he sought out Jiva Goswami, who was in Vrindavan. Arriving at his Bhajan Kutir, he offered his dandavats and respects to Jiva Goswami. Jiva Goswami asked who he was, and Krishnadas told him everything. He explained how he was a disciple of Hridaya Chaitanya and how Hridaya Chaitanya had sent him to Jiva Goswami for instruction in the scriptures. Jiva Goswami had previously been told by Hridaya Chaitanya, "I have a disciple named Dukhi Krishnadas. I am offering him to you. Teach him well in Krishna consciousness. When his mind is fixed in Krishna consciousness, after he has studied the scriptures, carefully under guidance for some time, you may send him back to me." Upon knowing that Dukhi Krishnadas had been sent by Hridaya Chaitanya to work under his direction, Sri Jiva Goswami was very happy. Krishnadas was under his protection. Sri Krishnadas carefully served Jiva Goswami and studied the scriptures of the Goswamis very seriously. At that time, Srinivasacharya and Narottama Das Thakur had also come to study the Goswami scriptures under the authority of Jiva Goswami. Krishnadas would meet with them and study the scriptures together with Srinivasacharya and Narottama Das Thakur. Krishnadas prayed for service that would bring him closer to Jiva Goswami. When Jiva Goswami saw this, he said with joy, "Every day you must draw some water from the Kanana Kunj." So it sounds like from this that although Hridaya Chaitanya Das was his Diksha Guru, Jiva Goswami was his Shiksha Guru. So he was trying very hard to pray for service and to please him. From that day on, Dukhi Krishnadas, with great affection and eagerness, would go to that kunj to fill Jiva Goswami's water pot. The opportunity to serve Jiva Goswami in this way gave Krishnadas' life new meaning. By drawing water for Jiva Goswami every day, Krishnadas felt a transformation within himself. He would become joyful, and his eyes would fill with tears of ecstasy. Whenever he would hear the name of Radha and Govinda loudly chanted in kirtan, and whenever he remembered their divine pastimes, he would become dumbstruck with wonder. From time to time, he would notice a girl who seemed to be a beautiful princess drawing water from the same kunj and carrying it on her head. Brahma and Shiva would be enchanted by her beauty. In this way, Dukhi Krishnadas continued his service of visiting the kunj and drawing water for Jiva Goswami. His service certainly pleased the prince and princess of Braja, Sri Radha and Krishna, so much so that they wanted to reveal themselves to Krishnadas. One day, Krishnadas was performing his regular duty of filling the water pot from the kunj. He was fully absorbed in the samadhi of Krishna Prema. At that time, he saw in the water beneath his pot a wonderfully shining bangle, an anklet, nupara. Upon seeing it, he was astonished by its beauty and overwhelmed by transcendental ecstasy. He reached his hand within the waters of the kunj and pulled out this unusual bangle. Touching it to his head, he felt a wave of transcendental ecstasy. Then, finding a piece of cloth that appeared to be the border of a woman's scarf attached to the bangle, he thought to seek out the owner of the bangle in order to return it. In that place, that very morning, seeing that the bangle from the left foot of Sri Radha Thakurani was missing, her gopi friends were dumbstruck. Sri Radha said, "Last night while I was dancing with Krishna by the side of the kunj, the bangle must have fallen in the kunj. Go there, please, and after finding it, bring it to me." Vishaka Devi went to the banks of the kunja and began searching and searching for the bangle. As she was searching, she came upon Dukhi Krishnadas, who at that time was filling his water pot, as usual, at the kunj. Vishaka Devi asked him, "Have you found a bangle near here?" Dukhi Krishnadas, seeing this beautiful girl who appeared to be a goddess from heaven, was dazzled by her brilliance. Hearing the ambrosial words from this immortal goddess, he was struck dumb with the ecstasy of love of Godhead. Vishaka Devi again asked him, "Have you found a bangle near here?" Dukhi Krishnadas humbly offered his respectful obeisances and meekly said, "Yes, I have it." "Please tell me, who are you?" Vishaka said, "I am the daughter of a Gopa." "Where do you live?" "I live in this village." "Is the bangle yours?" "No, it's not mine. At my house there is a newly married girl. How was it lost here?" "Yesterday, when she was picking flowers here at the kunj, it somehow slipped off her foot and she lost her bangle in the water. I have come here to find her bangle. Wait here, and I will bring her to you." Sounds like Dukhi Krishnadas didn't exactly, he wanted to see for himself who the owner was. A little while later, Sri Radha Thakurani came with Vishaka Devi and hid behind a tree. Vishaka Devi said, "O devotee, she has come for her bangle." From a distance, Dukhi Krishnadas could see the brilliant effulgence of the daughter of the King Vrishabhanu, and felt as if his soul had been stolen from his body. In great transcendental bliss, he gave the bangle to Vishaka Devi. At that time, he had some intuition that a great mystery was being revealed to him. With his eyes filled with tears of Krishna Prema, he fell to the ground and offered his prostrated obeisances in full submission. His voice was choked up in ecstasy. At that time, Vishaka Devi said, "O best of the devotees, my girlfriend would very much like to show her gratitude by granting you a benediction. You may ask for whatever you want." Dukhi Krishnadas replied, "There is nothing that I want. I only pray to take the dust of her lotus feet." Vishaka Devi replied, "Take bath in this kund." Dukhi Krishnadas went to bathe in the kund. He offered his obeisances, and then, when he immersed himself in the water, he assumed the form of a beautiful girl. Returning to Vishaka Devi, Dukhi Krishnadas offered respects to her. Vishaka Devi brought this new gopi to Sri Radha Thakurani. The new gopi offered her obeisances in the dust of the lotus feet of Sri Radha. The Saki seated the new gopi in their midst. At that time, Sri Radharani applied some kumkum to the bangle and made a tilak mark on the head of the new gopi, saying, "This tilak must remain on your forehead. From this day on, your name will be Shamananda. Now go." At this, Srimati Radharani, along with all her gopi friends, vanished. Dukhi Krishnadas's samadhi broke. In the water he could see his reflection and the effulgent tilak mark the bangle had left on his forehead. His heart was filled with wonder at the sight, and he thought to himself, "What have I seen?" Saying this, he began to weep with joy. Thereafter, offering hundreds and hundreds of prayers in the name of Sri Radha Thakurani, he returned to the lotus feet of Sri Jiva Goswami. I must say he's a better person than I would be if I had that benediction, because I would not want to continue on with normal life after that. Seeing the new tilak mark that shines so brilliantly on the forehead of Dukhi Krishnadas, Jiva Goswami was dumbstruck. He inquired as to its origin. Dukhi Krishnadas bowed before his master, and with his eyes filled with tears, he related the entire story to Jiva Goswami. Hearing this, Jiva Goswami was supremely happy. He said, "Don't reveal the story of this miracle to the people in general. From this day on, your name will be Shamananda." Noticing the change in Dukhi Krishnadas's name and tilak, the Vaishnava community began to talk about him. Gradually, word reached Ambika Kalna in Godadesh. Hearing that his disciple had changed his name and tilak, Hridai Chaitanya became very angry. He quickly left for Vrindavan. When he arrived at the place where Krishnadas was staying, Krishnadas fell before his Gurudev's lotus feet, offering his dandavats. Sri Hridaya Chaitanya, seeing the new tilak on his disciple's forehead, became very angry and said, "Your conduct is abominable. You are disgracing me." In this way, he chastised Dukhi Krishnadas and struck him again and again as the Vaishnavas did their best to pacify Hridaya Chaitanya Prabhu. Whew. So he was beating Dukhi Krishnadas, Shamananda. Dukhi Krishnadas bore all his guru's chastisement with a cheerful face, for he knew that he had never left the service of his Guru Maharaj. That night, Sri Hridaya Chaitanya Prabhu had a dream in which he saw Sri Radha Thakurani, Srimati Radharani, then scolded Hridaya Chaitanya, saying, "Because Sri Dukhi Krishnadas has pleased me greatly, I have given him this new name and tilak. Why have you instructed him differently?" Hridaya Chaitanya fell at the feet of the princess of Braj, praying for forgiveness, realizing that he had committed a great offense. The next morning, Sri Hridaya Chaitanya called Shamananda Prabhu to his side and affectionately embraced him again and again. With tears of ecstasy in his eyes, he told his disciples, "You are most fortunate." His disciple. A few days later, Sri Hridaya Chaitanya left Brajadam. And then Jiva Goswami ordered Shamananda Prabhu to return to Godadesh. Shamananda Prabhu, Srinivasacharya, and Narottama Das Thakur, in great happiness, had spent many days studying the Goswami scriptures under the tutelage of Sri Jiva Goswami, and moving through Vrindavan as humble beggars, practicing Madhukari. These three devotees practiced their Madhukari and performed their bhajan as one. In this way, they were very fixed and determined in their devotional service. There's always strength in numbers when doing that sort of work and austerity, yes? In this way, having been invited to do so by the Goswamis, the three of them went to preach the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, especially found in the scriptures of the Goswamis. One day, Jiva Goswami called the three of them together and let them know how to fulfill the will of the Goswamis. The three of them bowed their heads, and receiving the orders of Jiva Goswami with great respect, they left. They started for Godadesh with the scriptures entrusted by them by Jiva Goswami. On the way, the king of Vana Vishnupura, King Virambir, had their scriptures stolen by some of his men. King Virambir had had a premonition or a dream that there was this ox cart and it was filled with so many great treasures. So taking it as something material, he ordered his men who were dacoits to go retrieve the treasures. But instead he received these wonderful scriptures, which were all actually handwritten. You know, of course in those days there wasn't anything. These were original handwritten scriptures on the palm leaves that the Goswamis had scripted. For the purpose of recovering the stolen scriptures, Srinivasacharya stayed behind. Sri Narottama Das Thakur went on to Keturigram, and Shamananda Prabhu returned to Ambikakalna. And upon arriving there, Shamananda Prabhu offered his respects at the lotus feet of Hridaya Chaitanya. The two of them embraced each other with great joy and affection, and Hridaya Chaitanya inquired after the welfare of the great devotees and Goswamis in Vrindavan. Upon hearing the theft of the Goswami scriptures, Hridaya Chaitanya was deeply shocked and disappointed. Soon Shamananda was once again offering service at the lotus feet of his Gurudev, Hridaya Chaitanya Prabhu. After a few days, Shamananda became completely absorbed in Guru Seva, and his happiness grew day by day. Almost all of the personal associates of Sri Chaitanya in Utkala Desh had by that time one by one disappeared and entered into the unmanifest pastimes of the Lord. The preaching of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's message had almost disappeared. Hridaya Chaitanya, upon hearing all this, became especially concerned. At that time, he ordered Sri Shamananda to go to Utkala Desh and preach the message of the Goswamis and the teachings of Sri Chaitanya. As he was leaving his Gurudev behind, Shamananda felt great pain within his heart. Understanding his heart, Hridaya Chaitanya called Shamananda him and made him understand his concern. Having no other course open to him, Shamananda Prabhu left for Utkala, taking his Guru's orders on his head. On his way to Utkala, he passed his old village of Darendra Bahadurpur. Seeing his own dear Duki returning home after being gone for so long, the townspeople were extremely happy, and for a few days he stayed there and preached the holy gospel of Sri Chaitanya. Many people heard him and were enchanted by him and took shelter at his lotus feet. Thereafter he came to a town called Dandeshwara. There Sri Krishna Mandala had formerly lived. Shamananda Prabhu blessed the town of Dandeshwara and the devotees who lived there by his holy association, to the extreme happiness of all of them. For many days he preached Hari Katha and held a great festival there. Many people, upon hearing the divine message of Shamananda Prabhu, were charmed by his saintliness and became his disciples. Finally, Shamananda Prabhu arrived in Utkala, sanctifying the earth there with his holy presence, and again he began preaching the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. On the banks of the Suvarna Reka River lived a pious zamindar by the name of Sri Achyutadev. Rasikananda was the name of his only son. From the time he was a little boy, he was a paragon of Krishna Bhakti. For the sake of his education, his father had engaged some learned scholars to teach him. Rasikananda would study at the place of the Pandits, but he had no interest in worldly knowledge. In everything he would study, he would find Hari Bhakti to be the ultimate conclusion. He was growing anxious to take shelter of the lotus feet of a Vaishnava guru. One day, when he was sitting alone, he was thinking, and at that time he heard a divine voice say, "Rasikananda, don't sit there brooding. Very soon a great devotee, a Mahabhagavat named Shamananda Prabhu, will arrive here. Go to him and take shelter of his lotus feet." Hearing that divine voice, he became somewhat encouraged. From that time on, he became very eager to see Shamananda Prabhu and was always looking down the road for his arrival. A few days later, Sri Shamananda Prabhu, along with his disciples, made his auspicious arrival at the house of Rasikananda in the village called Rohini on the banks of the Suvarna Reka. Sri Rasikananda Dev's bliss knew no bounds. He offered his full obeisances in a great mood of humility and took Sri Shamananda within his house, where he offered him the traditional puja. Everyone surrounded and surrendered to Shamananda's lotus feet. It was arranged on that day that Shamananda Prabhu would initiate Rasikananda into the Radha Krishna mantra. They began the chanting of Hare Krishna in Sankirtan in the home of Deva with all the other devotees, inviting all the friends and relatives to take part. Everyone in the village engaged in Sankirtan Yagya and took darshan of Shamananda Prabhu. Amazed by his wonderful explanations of the message of Gaura Nityananda, they all took shelter of his lotus feet. In this way, the town of Rohini had many disciples of Sri Shamananda Prabhu. In the town of Rohini, there was a big yogi named Damodara. One day he went to take darshan of Sri Shamananda Prabhu. From a long way off, he saw a divine effulgence as bright as the sun emanating from Shamananda, and it was blinding his vision. Thereafter, as he approached that great acharya, he fell at his lotus feet and took shelter there, offering many prayers in submission. Returning the respect shown to him by the yogi, Shamananda Prabhu, with tears in his eyes, said, "If your holiness wishes to develop divine purity, please just always chant the holy names of Gaura and Nityananda. The Lord is supremely merciful. If you only do this, he will bestow Krishna Prema upon you." Hearing what Shamananda Prabhu had said, Yogi Damodara's heart melted. He replied, "If you will kindly give me your mercy, I shall worship the lotus feet of Gaura Nityananda from now on." Shamananda Prabhu gave the yogi his blessings and bestowed his transcendental mercy upon him. Damodara became a great devotee of Sri Sri Gaura Nitai. He used to constantly chant the holy name of Gaura and Nityananda with tears of joy pouring from his eyes. In Balarampura lived many rich people. Hearing the glories of Shamananda Prabhu, the people there became very anxious to see him. The pious, faithful, and saintly people there began to pray with great earnestness for Shamananda Prabhu to come and visit Balarampura. Soon, Shamananda gave them his mercy. He promised to respond to the invitation, and not long after, he arrived there with Yogi Damodara, as well as many disciples and devotees. The ecstasy of the saintly persons in Balarampura was boundless. They offered puja to the lotus feet of Shamananda Prabhu and conducted their bhajan in a very beautiful way, observing all the proper rules and regulations of the Shastras. A few days later, they had a big kirtan and Harikatha festival in Balaramapura. Many people came and surrendered at the lotus feet of Sri Shamananda Prabhu. After this, Shamananda Prabhu went to Nrsimhapura. In Nrsimhapura, there was quite a large faction of atheists, agnostics, and blasphemers. After a few days, Shamananda Prabhu held a Sankirtan festival. The agnostics and atheistic pundits went to see Shamananda Prabhu and listened to his sweet and nectarian explanations of Harikatha and the Kirtan. By hearing his words, their hearts were moved. They accepted the shelter of Shamananda Prabhu's lotus feet. Day after day, the news of Shamananda's glories reached Utkala. From Nrsimhapura, Shamananda Prabhu went to Sri Gopa Vallabhapura. There, many wealthy people lived. After taking darshan of his lotus feet, they were astonished. Almost all of them accepted shelter at the lotus feet of Sri Shamananda Prabhu. They prayed at his feet that he might install some deities and that they might be engaged in deity worship. They begged him with great earnestness to do this. Soon thereafter, the devotees had established a temple of the Lord with a kirtan hall, a shelter for bhoga to be kept, and a special kitchen where the Lord's meals could be prepared, as well as an ashram where the deity's servants could live, and a guest house for visiting Vaishnavas. Near the temple, they also constructed a small pond and beautiful gardens. Soon thereafter, a great festival was held, and at that time, Sri Shamananda Prabhu installed the deities, Radha Govinda. When the installation ceremonies and festival were concluded, Shamananda Prabhu left for his hometown of Utkala. Seeing the charming beauty of the Radha Govinda deities, everyone felt peace in their hearts. After Shamananda Prabhu had left for Utkala, the residents of Gopi Vallabhapura entrusted the responsibility of service to the deities to Rasikananda Prabhu. Arriving in Utkalapura, Sri Shamananda Prabhu preached the message of Gaura Nityananda, and finally returning to Ambika Kalna, he paid his respects at the lotus feet of Sri Hridaya Chaitanya. Having offered his respects and prayers to his Gurudev, Hridaya Chaitanya, he told him all about his successful preaching of the message of Gaura Nityananda throughout Utkala, Dandashwara, Rohini, Balarampura, Nrsimhapura, and Gopi Vallabhapura. Hearing of the victories of his disciple, Sri Hridaya Chaitanya affectionately embraced Shamananda Prabhu. After some time, Sri Shamananda Prabhu was invited to the famous festival in Keturigram, the birthplace of Narottama Das Thakur. After getting this invitation, Shamananda Prabhu, along with the disciples, set off in the direction of Keturigram. After arriving in Keturigram, he found his old lifelong friends, Narottama Das Thakur and Srinivasacharya. Heartily embracing one another, they floated in the waves of happiness. At that festival, Janavamata, Sri Raghunandana Thakur, Sri Achyutananda, and Sri Vrindavan Das Thakur, and other eternal associates of Sri Gaurachandra, as well as many great souls and important devotees, graced everyone there by their auspicious presence. Raghunandana Thakur, Achyutananda, and Vrindavan Das Thakur, and Janavamata, that was sort of the second wave after the departure of Gauranga and Nityananda. Sri Shamananda Prabhu bade farewell to all the assembled devotees and again turned his face in the direction of Utkala in order to make his return journey. On his way back to Godadesh, he stopped off in the town of Kantak Nagara at the house of Gadadhar Das Thakur, in Yagjigram at the house of Srinivasacharya, and in Srikanda at the house of Raghunandana Thakur. After this time, many of the eternal associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu passed away from this earth and entered in the eternal unmanifest pastimes of the Lord. After some time, Shamananda reached Utkala. Moving from one devotee's house to the next, he went from one town to the next and graced many devotees with his blessings. Soon he arrived in Sri Gopi Vallabhapura. At this time, he heard the news of the passing away of his guru, Sri Hridaya Chaitanya. Hearing this tragic news, Sri Shamananda Prabhu fainted. After regaining consciousness, he wept and wept for a long time. He fell into a state of complete anxiety, disappointment, and bewilderment. It's understandable. That night, however, he had a dream of Hridaya Chaitanya and was encouraged by him to preach. From Utkaladesh, the glories of Shamananda Prabhu were preached to the four directions. As a result of his influence, the constant worship and service of Gaura and Nityananda was established far and wide. Rasikananda, Sri Murari, Radhananda, Purushottama, Manohara, Chintamani, Balabhadra, Sri Jagadishvara, Gadadhar, Ananda Nandana, and Sri Radha Mohan, and others were the dearmost confidential disciples of Shamananda Prabhu. Srila Shamananda Prabhu, having been successful in his many preaching campaigns, returned to Gopi Vallabhapura, and there, after some days, a big festival took place. After that, in the month of Asar, on the day of Krishna Pratipada, the great Acharya, Sri Shamananda Prabhu, entered into the eternal Leela of his Lord. His samadhi may be found in Gopi Vallabhapura, where the service of his deity goes on to this day. So he actually established deity there. And he's obviously a great personality who took the order of his Gurudev on his head in all circumstances and went here, there, and everywhere to learn and preach the glories of Sri Chaitanya and Sri Nityananda, and by that was able to enter in those eternal pastimes of the Lord, and that's a testament for the very, very strict following of the Guru's instructions, because by the mercy of Guru, one gets Krishna, and by the mercy of Krishna, one gets Guru. And with that in mind, last week we were reading verse 108, which is very long, of the Madhya Kanda 15. And there's we got a little bit of the way through, but I actually just wanted to finish reading this verse because this in great detail outlines how one should conduct themselves to follow the orders of their spiritual master, much as Shamananda Prabhu did. 15108, Madhya. And starting at, according to the Vaishnava regulative principles, one must be initiated as a Brahmana. The Hari Bhakti Vilas, chapter 2, text 6, quotes the following injunction from the Vishnu Yamala. Adikshita shavamuru kritam sarvam nirartakam bashu yonim avapnoti diksham virahito jana. Unless one is initiated by a bona fide spiritual master, all his devotional activities are useless. A person who is not properly initiated can descend again into the animal species. Hari Bhakti Vilas, chapter 2, text 10, further quotes, Ato gurum pranam yaivam sarvasvam vinivedya cha griniyad vaishnavam mantram diksham purvam vidanata. It is the duty of every human being to surrender to a bona fide spiritual master, giving him everything, body, mind, and intelligence. One must take Vaishnava initiation from him. The Bhakti Sandarbha 298 gives the following quotation from the Tattva Sagara. Yata kancha natam yati kamshyam rasha vidanata tata diksha vidanena dvijatvam jayate nrinam. By chemical manipulation, bell metal is turned into gold when touched by mercury. Similarly, when a person is properly initiated, he can acquire the qualities of a Brahmana. The Hari Bhakti Vilas 17:11 through 12, in discussing the Puruskara process, quotes the following verses from the Agastya Samhita. Puja Traikaliki Nityam Japas Tarpanamevacha Homo Brahmana Bhuktischa Puruskara Namuchyate Guru Labdasya Mantrasya Prasadena Yatavidi Panchakopasana Siddhyai Puraschaidad Vidiyate. In the morning, afternoon, and evening, one should worship the deity, chant the Hare Krishna mantra, offer oblations, perform a fire sacrifice, and feed the brahmanas. These 5 activities constitute Puruskarya. To attain full success when taking initiation from the spiritual master, one should first perform these Puruskarya processes. The word Pura means before, and Charya means activities. Due to the necessity of these activities, we do not immediately initiate disciples in the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. For 6 months, a candidate for initiation must first attend arati and classes in the Shastra, practice the regulative principles, and associate with other devotees. When one is actually advanced in the Puruskarya Vidhi, he is recommended by the local temple president for initiation. It is not that anyone can be suddenly initiated without meeting the requirements. When one is further advanced by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra 16 rounds daily, following the regulative principles, and attending classes, he receives the sacred thread, Brahminical recognition, after the second 6 months, or nowadays, whenever appropriate. In the Hari Bhakti Vilas, chapter 17, 4 through 5 and 7, it is stated, Vinayena nasidachan mantro varsha satarapi kritena yena labate sadako vanchatitam valam purascharya sabano mantro hi valadayankata puraskriyam kuryat mantra vitsiddhi kankashaya puraskriya hi mantranam pradhanam viryam uchyate Viryahino yata dehi sarva karma shunashama puraskarana hino hitata mantra prakirtita. Without performing the Puruskarya activities, one cannot become perfect even by chanting this mantra for hundreds of years. But one who has undergone the Puruskarya Vidhi process can easily attain success. And if one wishes to perfect his initiation, he must first undergo the Puruskarya activities. The Puruskarya process is the life force by which one is successful in chanting the mantra. Without the life force, one cannot do anything. Similarly, without the life force of Puruskarya Vidhi, no mantra can be perfected. And that was a quote from that. And just to point out how merciful Srila Prabhupada is on the fallen souls of this material planet, that we didn't have to do those things before taking initiation. That's the great power of a pure devotee, and also a testament to his extreme compassion, that he even has thought that we would be worthy for that for this responsibility without undergoing these practices. But we know also that the Maha Mantra is the great purifier in all circumstances as well. In his Bhakti Sandarbha, Srila Jiva Goswami describes the importance of deity worship and initiation, Diksha, as follows. It is Srimad, I'm not going to read the Sanskrit because my eyes are crossing this morning. It is Srimad Bhagavatam's opinion that the process of deity worship is not actually necessary, just as the specific prescriptions of the Pancharatra and other scriptures do not have to be followed. The Bhagavatam enjoins that even without practicing deity worship, one can achieve the complete success of human life by any of the other devotional processes, such as simply offering oneself at the Lord's feet for his protection. Nonetheless, Vaishnavas following the path of Sri Narada and his successors endeavor to establish a personal relationship with the Lord by receiving the grace of a bona fide spiritual master through initiation, and in this tradition, the devotees are obliged at the time of initiation to begin engaging in the deity worship. Although deity worship is not essential, the material conditioning of most candidates for devotional service requires that they engage in this activity. When we consider their bodily and mental conditions, we find that the character of such candidates is impure and their minds are agitated. Therefore, to rectify this material conditioning, the great sage Narada and others have at different times recommended various kinds of regulation for deity worship. Similarly, the Ramarchana Chandrika states, Vinaiva diksham viprenda puruskaryam vinaivahi vinaiva nesa vidina japa mantrena siddhita. O best of the Brahmanas, even without initiation, preliminary purification, or acceptance of the renounced order, one can attain perfection in devotional service simply by chanting the Lord's holy names. In other words, the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra is so powerful that it does not depend on official initiation. But if one is initiated and engages in Pancharatra Vidhi, deity worship, his Krishna consciousness will awaken very soon, and his identification with the material world will be vanquished. The more one is freed from material identification, the more one can realize that the spirit soul is qualitatively as good as the Supreme Soul. At such time, when one is situated on the absolute platform, one can understand that the holy name of the Lord and the Lord himself are identical. At that stage of realization, the holy name of the Lord, the Hare Krishna mantra, cannot be identified with any material sound. If one accepts the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra as a material vibration, he falls down. One should worship and chant the holy name of the Lord by accepting it as the Lord himself. One should therefore be initiated properly according to revealed scriptures under the direction of a bona fide spiritual master. Although chanting the holy name is good for both the conditioned and liberated soul, it is especially beneficial to the conditioned soul because by chanting it, one is liberated. When a person who chants the holy name is liberated, he attains the ultimate perfection by returning back home, back to Godhead. And there's actually more to this purport, but I'm just going to go to the top at what Prabhupada says at the very beginning of this, whatever I just read. Unless one is initiated as a Brahmana, one cannot worship the holy name properly. And that's interesting. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Shri Shri Radha Golokananda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Gurudev ki jai.
Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kandar Agom Vikamaniya Vishesha Shobha Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasa Sakalen Priya Priti Manti Vasyan Vipan Vikayanti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vigrahasya Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami
Namaho Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristaya Mudalaya Srimate Bhaktivedanta Samanichitamane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Praja Nivesesha Shunyavati Matsajagade Zatarane Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Sivasadi 널 왔던 friend. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadada Siva Sadi Gaurvata Brenda. Say Krishna Chaitanya Ramanityananda Advaita Gadada Siva Sadi Gaurvata Brenda. Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Advaita Gadada Siva Sadi Gaurvata Brenda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Radha, looking on a looking on a ragate. Radhe, 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 Radhe. Rate. Jai Om Vishnupad Hanamahansa Parak.
Jai. Etodarpanam Arjanam Bhavamahadavagni Avanam Shreya Kairavya Chandrika Vitaranam Vijavadu Jivanam Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam Pratipanam Punamrita Swadanam Sarvatma Snapanam Bharam Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Bahuda Katrapitani Amita Smarane Nakala Etad Vrishita Vakripa Bhagavan Mamapi Dordaiva Midrishami Hajjanina Nuraga Janada Pisa Nishena Tarora Pisa Hishuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari Nadanam Najanam Nasundarim Kavitam Vajagadisha Kamaye Mama Janmani Janmani Ishvare Bhavatad Bhaktir Hoitaki Chai Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitam Mambusame Bhavam Buddha Kribhayata Vapada Pankaja Stita Duli Sadrashim Vachintaya Nayanam Kalashu Daraya Varanam Gadgadradaya Gira Pulakarnishitam Vabhukada Tavanamagrahani Vishyati Yugayatam Nihishena Chakshusha Pravashayatam Shunayatam Jagat Sarvam Govindam Virahename Ashlishya Vapadam Ritam Padastumam Adarshanam Marmahata Kurotiva Yatatava Vidadatulam Pato Mat Prananatastu Saeva Napara. Victory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life, of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss, and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. O my Lord, congregational chanting of your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness you enable us to easily approach you by holy names, but I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw on the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I want her beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. O Son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor, yet somehow or other I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. Oh, my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up, and when will the... Oh, Govinda. Oh, Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I am feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna is my Lord, and he shall remain so, even if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me brokenhearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he's always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally true.